Hello everyone, this is Soban, and I am going to discuss today the impact of COVID 19 on organizations. Since all of us know that the current pandemic situation has completely revolutionized the way organizations are operating today, this is something which was unprecedented and was not even accounted for in the contingency planning of most of the organizations. So, we are going to try and assess with respect to how the current pandemic is shaping the organizations, how the current pandemic is impacting the organizational structure, and we are going to assess its impact on how motivation of employees is impacted because of the uncertainty that exists in the environment today. It is important for us to understand the impact of current pandemic situation because this is something which can be explored in the examination with respect to different theories, with respect to different frameworks, as well as with respect to different mentalities and philosophies that exist in our course. So, primarily, first of all, we are going to explore and try and understand that how COVID 19 is actually influencing the strategic direction of organizations and hence shaping the organizations. It is important to build on the business environment and its impact that is being created so that we could understand that how is it going to impact organizational structures. Thirdly, we are also going to see that how the factors have changed, which were previously motivating employees when they were working in a different scenario. But in pandemic, since their working environment has changed, since most of them are remotely working, or since some of them are working in a very different circumstances as they were previously. So we are going to try and understand that what are the motivational factors that are influencing them or that are motivating them to perform their tasks. In the start of 2020, the companies were focused towards either fulfilling the strategic directions they had defined for themselves 5 years ago, or they were planning that how they are going to strategically revolutionize their business or how they are going to strategically change their position in in the market in next 3 years to 5 years. But because of COVID 19, it has created an unprecedented uncertainty where now companies are more worried about their survival instead of their strategic goals. And this is quite true. Like, it's been almost over a month that most of the companies are now closed or they have stopped their operations or they have halted their operations or are considering ceasing their operations. It is true that many organizations may never open up once this pandemic is over. So, this is such a huge change in the strategic direction of the organizations, where previously they were focused towards expanding in the market, or they were focused towards repositioning themselves in the market, or they were restructuring themselves to become more competitive. And then, because of the pandemic, everything has completely changed. For last month and a half, since we have been experiencing the lockdown in most of the countries. Because of the lockdown, the companies are not earning revenue. Most of the companies are surviving on the liquidation that they have available with themselves, the working capital that they have available with themselves. So, in the wake of COVID 19, companies are becoming more careful with respect to how they are going to spend money, let's say, on training and development, let's say, how they were going to spend on their strategic directions. Like, let me give you an example Thai Airways, for instance. Thai Airways, they had twice restructured itself in 2015 and 2019 just in order to turn around their fortunes and start making profits again. And they were expected to start making profits by the end of 2020 or the start of 2021. But now the restructuring was primarily taking place because the company had a very high debt ratio. Because of having too much debt, the company was considering buying new airplanes and replacing their old fleet in order to improve their market competitiveness, their position in the market, and hence they were expected that in 2020 they were able to finally increase their revenue to a level where they could start making profit again. In last whole decade, the last time they made real good numbers in profit was in 2012. They made good profits in 2010, which was the highest the company had ever made in its 50 years of uh, operations. Now it's been 60 years Thai Airways has been working, but they are struggling with respect to the fact that they had to pay off their debts, but they are defaulting on their debts. For over a month, they are not generating any revenue. They cannot fire people and they are just bleeding cash. But at the moment, there is a debate on between the government and the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Transportation that whether they should bail out Thai Airways, they should support Thai Airways, or is it time to file the bankruptcy and liquidate the organization, or what? So, because of this pandemic, the organizations which were planning for future are now reconsidering their current survival. So it is becoming a going concern for most of the organizations. This is even true for Next UK. Like Next was already struggling previously and they were looking to restructure themselves or redefine their businesses, redefine their market positioning. But then because of this pandemic, they have put their head office for sale. Their headquarter building in London is for sale, along with two of their warehouses, because they want to sell it for, I think, over £100 million. And from that money, they are going to pay off their employees and they are going to survive in this pandemic situation with enough cash in hand. Likewise, the tourism is completely finished in the country, in not just in Pakistan or in any other country. It's finished all over the world because the airline industry is not working at all. The people do not have money. People cannot travel. People do not have job. So just imagine that how all these things are going to impact the organizations not just now but also in the future. When organizations have bleeded money, they don't have enough cash available. People will be more because of the unemployment that is going to be created, people would be willing to work for less. And if people are going to work for less, there is going to be a huge supply of labor and the demand of labor is going to be less. So prices are going to drop. So people will have less money. So people are going to buy less of Next UK's clothes. People are going to travel less on Thai Airways anyways. And the tourism is going to decline anyways. So the impact of coronavirus and this COVID-19 on the current situation is actually going to change the way organizations think, change the way organizations work, and that also going to change how we are going to see organizations in future. So one of the impact that we expect is on how the organizations are structured. So the next what we are going to see is how the organizations are structured. As part of our course, we learned that organizational structure is the way an organization is configured into work groups and the reporting and authority relationships that connect individuals and groups together. We discussed the contingency theory on the basis of which we defined the structure with respect to centralization versus decentralization, the high or low differentiation, the integration being high towards horizontal integration or vertical integration. We also talked about the specialization of the labor. We talked about the formalization and informalization. And we also talked about the high and low span of control when we were trying to understand that an organization structure is defined. We discussed the contingency theory where we talked about Chandler's work, who suggested that it is essentially the strategy that defines how you are going to structure your organization. We studied John Woodward's work where she said that it is essentially the technology that defines how you are going to structure your organization. Whereas Aston School Group, they concluded that it is essentially the size of the organization that defines that how it is going to structure itself. So what do you think because of COVID-19? Is it the size of the organization which is going to matter? Is it the strategy that organizations are going to take, which is going to redefine their structures? Or is it the technology that is going to impact them? So let's try and understand and measure that impact. So, if you are talking about the organization structure and the impact we are going to witness, or the type of organizational structures we are going to see because of the COVID 19 or because of this pandemic, you need to see some of the things that are common, that are changing if you look out around and see how businesses are operating. One thing that is evident is that now businesses are not functioned around the traditional functional style. They are more focused towards coordinating amongst the functions to ensure the work is being done. If you look at this structure, that is the M structure, which was proposed by Chandler as well, that was primarily aimed at the that it is because of the strategy that drives structure. So we are going to first of all see a change in the strategy, as we discussed previously, that now the strategy has uh, changed from strategic direction, whatever the organization had, to survival. So since the strategy has changed to survival, so it is going to result in a more M style of the structures. We are going to see more connectivity across functions in order to ensure the operational costs could be minimized. We are going to see that how geographically dispersed businesses, they will start integrating together through technology, and they will start uh, working as virtual organizations, since we all know that now the culture is that people are working from home mostly. So when they are working from home, this means that the need for empowerment is there. The management need to empower the employees to get their tasks done. So now the performance management has moved towards more task orientation. They are more focused about the fact that whether, like, whatever tasks were being assigned, whether those tasks are being fulfilled or not. And if we look at it with respect to centralization and decentralization, centralization is going to give direction with respect to what needs doing. More of the administrative work is going to be controlled by the management. However, decentralization is going to take place with respect to employees taking the decisions with respect to what is being best for that particular time period. However, the organizational goals is something that are going to set the direction of how those decisions will be taken. So we can conclude that we are going to witness more like the primary difference that we are going to see is because the organizations are going to shift their strategies, and they are going to focus on survival rather than growth or rather than other objectives they had. And because of shifting to survival, we are going to see some good organizational structural changes, where organizations will look for more multi-talented people, multi-skilled people, or probably when they will have to when they will have to make some employees redundant, or when they will have to reduce their operational costs, they are going to consider those employees who are more multi-skilled and who have eclectic experiences in the past. So they will have better chance of surviving in such an organizational structure. So now, because of the shift in directions we talked about and the shift in the organizational structure we talked about, uh, how people are going to get motivated, or what factors are going to motivate people to work or to perform, are going to change as well. We can relate to it with respect to the fact that in the previously I highlighted the fact that employees are going to be there is going to be an increase in number of employees. We are going to see a lot many people getting unemployed, which is already getting quite high in US, for example. So because of the unemployment, people are going to get uncertain about their future, and that uncertainty is going to become one of the factor which people are going to look for, or avoiding the uncertainty will become one of the things which is going to motivate the employees. So if we look at it through Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so if we talk about middle management, or we talked about frontline managers or the workers. So even if they were at, let's say, the third or the fourth stage of Maslow's hierarchy of need, where they wanted self-esteem or love and belongingness as the factors that could motivate them, uh, will certainly move down to basic physiological and safety needs because of the uncertainty that exists in the environment, and how uh, like this uncertainty will result in their current employment is something which is going to motivate them or demotivate them to put in their best effort to survive in such circumstances. Likewise, if we look at the motivation theory with respect to Porter and Lawler's process of motivation, in which he said that uh, the motivation is a continuous model which is influenced by different factors. So if you just look at these factors now, like the effort, like the employees put in effort and they expect to reach a performance level, they look at the intrinsic rewards that are available to them and the extrinsic rewards that they are going to get. Based upon that, the satisfaction of the employees are determined. But if you look at the scenario now, we need to understand that uh, value of reward is going to be different now. Like previously, the expectation was like if the reward is even big, but the expectation was bigger, the satisfaction level was less. But now what we are going to see is that the satisfaction primarily of employees lie in the fact that they have the job security. Likewise, their focus is with respect to extrinsic rewards. They primarily want to make sure that there is no negative consequences of their performances. So they will try to put in their best in order to make sure that they are not the ones who are made redundant because of the operational decline organizations are experiencing. So I would like you guys to go through these theories in your chapters and try to link each of these points with the uncertainty that exists and share your comments, what you believe, what are the factors you believe are going to influence with respect to what is going to motivate people and what is not going to motivate people, or how these how these variables are going to shape up in the wake of COVID-19. So going forward, as we need to prepare ourselves for the examination, we need to start understanding the impact of COVID-19 on organizations, and we need to prepare some real life examples. So I think the best way for this is that you go online every day and you search about different organizations you have heard of. Like for example, I shared the example of Thai Airways in the beginning. I shared with you the example next UK as well. We can even take the example of House of Frasers. We can take an example of TK Maxx. These are all the organizations who are experiencing a lot of problems with respect to the fact that they were already struggling, or their technological setups or their technological channels were not very good, and because of which now they are struggling for survival. And how they are going to restructure themselves, you can think of any of the example with respect to how the centralization versus decentralization are going to change, how the specialization of labor is going to change. In short, you are going to see that whether there is strategy, the change in their strategy, how is it going to drive their structure. So you need to read a little more, you need to explore a little more with respect to what is happening in the business world at the moment, especially in the wake of COVID-19, in order to prepare yourself or in order to equip yourself for answering a good question if it comes on the impact of COVID-19 on organization or sort of organizational structure. And further on, in order to enhance your knowledge and in order to have a more real life experience or real life understanding of how it is actually impacting the employees, I would suggest ask your colleagues who are currently working in some capacities and some organizations. or you may ask the people you know who are working for the organizations, ask them if they have experienced any pay cuts, or if their work routines have changed, or how their work is different from what it was when they were going to offices and they were working, they were all there physically together compared to sitting at home and working through internet and through different technological tools. So that is something which is going to prepare your mindset with respect to how COVID-19 is actually influencing organizations. Thank you, everyone, for going through this video. I will be sharing more videos in this series as well with respect to the topics we have in organization studies, as well as with respect to interpreting management. And I will like to hear your feedback with respect to how you believe COVID-19 or this pandemic situation is impacting organizations. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.